If you lay off an employee in Mexico, there are specific rules that you need to follow. The law in Mexico are pro-employee. If I hire you today and in 1 hour I need to fire you, I'm obligated to pay you at least 90 days.
Really?
Yes, because the law says every employee that gets terminated without proper cause, these are the consequences. The employees in Mexico are king. If the company owes taxes, the first person that gets paid is the employee, and if there's anything left, then the government. The companies that are in bankruptcy is the US, and the ones that are being affected directly are the US. Now, the question comes, if you have over 30 companies in Mexico that need to be served with money and whatnot, how are you going to be sending money over there for the employees to keep working? Because nobody works for free.
Hi, and thank you for joining us on this episode of the RGV Business Journal podcast. I'm Naxiely Lopez-Puente, and with us today we have Francisco Peña. He is an attorney with Cacheaux, Cavazos Newton, which is a firm that specializes in foreign investment between Mexico and the U.S. with 11 different offices across both countries. So, Mr. Peña, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course. So this is a very busy time, right? Between all three countries, Canada, Mexico, the U.S. We are under review for the USMCA. Before we get into that, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what is it that you do and your company does?
Well, aside from being a husband and a dad, I'm an attorney from Mexico, graduated from Tec de Monterrey in 1994. Working in the firm since 2000. I'm a partner to the firm since 2009. And I have a niche of work. I do labor and environmental, some contractual work, and some of businesses are into Mexico, Reynosa, Matamoros, Monterrey. But also we represent in the firm Mexican nationals that want to do business or open businesses here in this side of we call it this side of the border. And what we represent them is we tell them how to invest and who to look for people that can give them or provide them the services that they're in need for. We have been doing lately a lot of international will and probate proceedings.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of Mexican nationals that they pass away in Mexico, but they have businesses, they have assets in the United States, so they had to go through the legal proceedings in Texas. So we have been helping their families to achieve and obtain those assets for their families. Also, we have been opening a lot of LLCs in here in the Valley, but also in San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, because there's a lot of opportunities in Texas for Mexican investors to come into the U.S. and sell their products or acquire assets or acquire products so they can resell it or manufacture them in Mexico. We also do a lot of what I call specifically international businesses.
Okay.
The international business, the setting up of companies in Mexico or setting up companies in the U.S. or Texas are coming to a very unique position based on how the things are going on in Mexico and the way business are conducted in the U.S. So there are, even though a business is a business, there are specific differences that need to be addressed, but also there are similarities. And through those similarities is how you connect either with a U.S. investor in Mexico or with a Mexican investor in the U.S. And through those similarities, eventually you start walking through the differences and paving the path, the way, so they can get the less hiccups as possible.
Right. Yeah.
So in a nutshell, that's what we do in our firm. Very intellectual property. We do a lot of registration of brands in Texas. Okay. We have a specific practice in Mexico about intellectual property. So we also specialize on that. We do a lot of civil matters, mercantile matters, labor, environmental, fiscal, customs into Mexico.
So what I'm hearing is you basically hold their hand, right, and say, hey, these are the things that you need to focus on if you are coming to the U.S., if you're planning to have a business here, invest, and, because depending on where you grow up, where you get your education, right, you learn the laws of that land. But when it comes to pivoting and building a business in another country, I mean, the difference
is different.
Yeah, there's a huge difference.
Correct. And one of the things that goes along with it is, first of all, you need to understand that we have, in my firm, we have what is called Mexican attorneys and U.S. attorneys. And we work together. One of my partners here in the office in McAllen, Marisa Sandoval Rodriguez, she says, it's very pleasant to have a Mexican attorney here in the office, because instead of looking for someone, calling for that attorney, I just walk through your office and I shoot you a question and you explain it to me from the Mexican standpoint. And the same goes to when I have a question regarding U.S. law, I go to her and I ask the questions. So within the law firm, we have specialized people that can help the client to jump those hoops that at the end of the day may end up hurting them if you don't have the correct advice. One thing that is important, especially when you try to invest in the United States, if you go to any law firm here that has no knowledge of international matters, they're going to set up, let's say, an LLC the correct way. And that LLC is going to work perfectly. But you may end up losing certain advantages with respect to your origin, which is the international, in this particular case, Mexico. So you need to set up your company that is also viable to present the advantages, and you take advantage of whatever the law in the U.S. or in Mexico will bring you as an investor.
And that's a really interesting point, because we were talking earlier about how you guys specialize in USMCA, right? And
Correct.
I know that right now the point of origin, right, where it's coming from, that product is very important, because these trade and these right?
Correct.
Tariffs are kind of wreaking havoc on some of that, and kind of moving the supply chain a little bit.
I will say a lot.
A lot, okay.
There's a lot of companies suffering precisely because of the tariffs imposition. And one of the things, let me use the U.S. hat.
Okay.
I somehow can see the whys in the imposition of tariffs on products, because it had become, for the past whatever years, a habit of not doing the right way. Kind of like jumping through hoops, going around. There's a
like
loophole
loopholes or something,
and things like that, and taking advantage of those loopholes. So I see that some companies may be hurting because of those loopholes. Okay. So charging the tariffs to this with the intention of closing those loopholes, it's not sometimes working in the best interest of some of the other companies. The disruption of the supply chain suffered a lot and is still suffering. The recent resolution issued by the U.S. Supreme Court that says the IEPA is not the right way to collect tariffs on companies. Well, I just wrote an article that says, in reality, they did not take away anything from him, and him being our president. And the reason is there's other
ways to inflict those tariffs,
232, 301, 308.
Which we saw,
exactly,
right? The
today.
day after.
Yeah. The day after he imposed through a new mechanism. So in reality, the Supreme Court, what it did, it just showed a new path on how those tariffs can be charged. And there are some very aggressive, especially 308 is very aggressive. There's been imposed in China because of the type of competition that they're doing and things like that. So it is important to understand what other tools the federal administration has in order to keep collecting those tariffs. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of money that came in through the period of those tariffs, a lot of money.
But isn't that supposed to be returned back to the company, supposedly?
Well, let me use the word supposedly in the right context.
Sure.
If you paid those tariffs and you, at the end of the day, just transfer those costs to the final consumer, who's going to be benefiting from those tariffs? You or the final consumer? How the final consumer is going to benefit, how he's going to recoup the money that pay you.
Yeah, he already spent it.
Correct. So you, the company, are going to recoup those, right? So you're going to have the moral obligation to repay your customers.
Yeah.
How that's going to work. Some companies, and I have clients that I have talked, as a matter of fact, last week, I talked and say, so are we, and I asked the CEO, I asked him, so are we recouping the tariffs? He says, no, we're not. Why not? It's a big hustle. Because then when I do that, how am I going to look to all the people that my product got sold to and return their money to them? So that's the dilemma right there. Yeah. And this is not me. This is words coming out from this CEO that is telling me and explaining me why they're not choosing to do that. So some of them are going to, and some of them are not going to.
Because if I'm understanding you have to apply for that money back. There's a process. It's not just like a refund, oh, oops, here you go.
Could you please do this? This is my savings account, please. Send it back. There's not going to work that.
So then the companies would have to apply. And then, so you're hearing that a lot of them may not be applying for this?
I will not say a lot, but there's some that they decided not to apply for a refund. Let me use that word. But the disruption that occurred through those times, some companies at a point that got bankrupt, we have First Brand. The companies that got hit with this tariffs, their supply chain came, I will say, mostly from China and Asia. And when those tariffs start hitting over there, this company was not able to recoup from those tariffs, and this company has or had in Mexico over 30 companies, and they will do automotive supplies to the AOMs, and by doing that, they were first tier, second tier, in some of the cases third tiers suppliers to the big automotive industries. And when the supply chains got disrupted because of price, because of imposition of tariffs, or because they were no longer able to import those assets in order to input it into the final product, well, you got your source of income, you were not able to sell to Ford, GM, or any other company because either your prices got jacked up or you were not able to comply with the providing the pieces or the parts that were needed to be completed for the car.
Sure.
Because of the supply chain disruptions.
But to be fair, there are allegations of fraud, involving that company. It's not just the supply chain issue and the tariffs. I mean, there's a legal case. They were two brothers and a third person were charged in that.
Well, and let me put it this way. When things go the right way, nobody notices anything. Sure. Because everything is earnings and winnings and happy meals. But when things starting to go south, people tend to get creative. And in that creativity, you are borderline illegal, borderline legal. And that is what the court needs to decide whether, an accusation of fraud is good. That's fine. But you have to investigate.
Sure.
And once you investigate and you get sentenced, then we can say, oh, yeah, there was fraud. Right now, remember.
Yeah, there's an allegation.
you're presumed innocent until proven that you're guilty.
But that is not stopping the impact that this company is having when we're talking about First Brands Group, right? And so that was the parent company for a lot of other companies in Matamoros, in Reynosa, in Juarez, in Brownsville, in Harlingen. And we have seen mass layoffs here just in our area in the past 3 months. I mean, I think it's, by our account, almost like 5,000 employees across the region, simply here, and that's not all the interior, the Juarez, the other locations, right?
Correct.
And so we're seeing the real impact of this bankruptcy. Thousands of employees.
Well, and you have to take into consideration that unfortunately, when you're in bankruptcy, funds get hold back.
Right.
They're not fluently sending to Mexico. And we have also to remember that there are U.S. companies as well. So the companies that are in bankruptcy is the U.S., and the ones that are being affected directly are the U.S. Now, the question comes, if you have over 30 companies in Mexico that need to be served with money and whatnot, how are you going to be sending money over there for the employees to keep working? Because nobody works for free. So that basically is not that the Mexican entities are in bad shape. Is that I will say 95% of the companies with this group, they receive their funding from the U.S. because of the type of industry that they're in. It's a maquiladora. A maquiladora or import-export company in Mexico, the way it works is you have your parent company in the U.S., the parent company, literally the parent, is the parent that either the father or the mother of the companies that are in Mexico. And those are the kids. Okay. And they're in college. And when they're in college, they need funds to eat, to drive their cars, to pay the laundry, the you name it.
Sure.
But mom or dad are not able to send money. So what is going to happen to my kids in Mexico?
Right.
Well, they're going to drop off from school, or they, instead of going to the more expensive school, they're going to look for a more easy access or cheaper school. And that's what it's, again, when things go south, you tend to be creative. And in that way, that's what is happening. There are some companies that are already suffering, like the one in Matamoros and Ciudad Juarez, but there are other companies that still afloat because they have, I guess, I don't know.
Different sources of...
They manage their finances differently. Okay. So I'm not into the nitty-gritty of the matter or how things work, but I can tell you that there are some companies being affected in a greater way than other companies in Mexico. Like I said, it's a big group of companies in Mexico that had been affected. And you have to take into consideration two things. The laws in Mexico are different from the laws in U.S. Yeah. And that's another story.
Oh, gosh. Well, let's get into that a little bit, because one of the things that really stood out to us here at the Journal was when we started hearing about these layoffs, both in the U.S. and in Mexico. First of all, the way that employees are notified, starting with that, right? Hey, mass layoffs. In the U.S., you have your warn letters, right? Which are basically notices that say, they go out not just to the employees, but I believe, even to the city where these companies are.
Or if you have a union, to the union as well. You work with the union.
In the U.S., right? You basically have to say these X amount of workers are,
Well, they call it a RIF, a reduction in force.
Okay.
A RIF. And if you have a union, you talk to the union and you let them know how they're going to be done. Usually it's kind of like an inventory. First in, first out. And this one is last in, first out. Which the individuals that have less seniority are the first ones to leave the company. Because the people that have more seniority are the ones with experience, are the ones that have the talent throughout all these years. You don't want to get rid of them. Not only because they're the most expensive, but because if you get rid of those, you get rid of the talent that you have acquired throughout the years.
Now, is that a personal choice for the companies, or do they have to actually stick by
Well, every collective bargaining agreement is different in the companies. I will say you will have to negotiate with your union if you have unions. If you don't have union, normally that's what you do. You pick and choose which ones are staying and which ones are leaving, which are the individuals. Remember, is employment at will, especially in Texas. So I hire you today, I fire you tomorrow. You can come to work with me today and you can quit tomorrow. And there's no penalty for you. There's no penalty for me as an employee. Yes, there's specific situations that need to be individually matters needs to be taken into consideration. We don't want to be into the age discrimination, gender discrimination, and other discriminations that can be afforded. They say, why are you getting rid of people over 45? And why are you not getting rid of people below 41? That could be age discrimination right there and there. And especially if you get rid of people 45 and up and you start hiring people with 20s.
Yeah, that's not
that's not good.
Not gonna look good.
In paper, in your mind as an HR, it may look good because the way that the person can justify that, well, the 45s and up, they're more expensive than the 20s. So that's I'm not hiring because of age because of age. I'm hiring because of this labor hand is cheaper than this one, based on seniority, based on whatever, And in Mexico, it's completely different.
Right. And so let's get back to the whole layoffs, right? Like in the U.S., you got the warn letter. When in Mexico, when you're going to lay off a bunch of people, what are the laws there? What does the company have to do?
Let me talk about here the region.
Okay.
Because depending on the region, some regions have unions and some regions do not. Like, for example, Juarez, half of that region, in Ciudad Juarez, half of the companies have unions, half of the companies do not have unions.
On the Mexican
On
side.
the Mexican side. And Tijuana, the same way. Tijuana, I will say 45% of the companies have unions. The rest of the companies do not have unions, or they do not want to have unions. Or if they have unions, the unions that they have, they're very manageable and agreeable with the employer.
Okay.
So that's the way it works. Now, in the region here, I will say 99% of the companies that you see over there, manufacturing companies, they have unions. Whether it's with the largest CTM unions, autonomous unions, or company unions. There's a very few that still have company unions. But nevertheless, a union.
So everybody here is pretty much unionized when it comes to the region here.
In the region here, bordered south, Mexico, Reynosa, Rio Bravo, Matamoros, Monterrey, Laredo, Nuevo Laredo, I will say. All of them have unions.
And why is that? Why are we so different? Why,
It's a cultural thing.
Okay.
In a nutshell, what I can tell you is the unionized movement began in the 70s. A little bit like in the 30s, 40s, it started to
gain traction, I guess.
Getting traction. But the 70s, as a matter of fact, the Mexican labor law it dates back to 1971.
Okay. Yeah.
So that tells you something. Unions throughout the years in Mexico gather a lot of strength, force, influence. There were unions that were putting mayors in different cities, senators, representatives at different levels. They were appointed by unions. That's how strong unions were in Mexico. Today, they still have some strength, but not as much as they used to have, like 70s, 80s, 90s, even the beginning of the 2000s. Come the 2010s, the life of the union began to be more of a business.
Okay.
The unions began to act as more of as a company than an actual union, because they saw that working with the businesses, they can continue to attract more business, and attracting more business means more membership, more union dues. And at the end of the day, a union is a business.
Right.
Yeah, I'm protecting your salary, I'm protecting your benefits and whatnot. But at the end of the day, whatever you're receiving, I'm getting a cut from your paycheck, which is between 3%, 4% of whatever you're receiving on a weekly basis. So that, in essence, began to show that the unions were needed. 7 years ago, when the system, and this is how I call it, the system changed in Mexico. We became from a capitalist to a socialist type of venue in Mexico, and the reason it changed, the unions that used to be the stronghold of the government no longer were the ones that are supporting the government now. As a matter of fact, they were fighting the government now.
And are we talking about like the change in presidency?
The change of presidency, definitely. So things change. The unions became, not the unions became more strong, but what it changed, the law changed. So the power got shifted to the members. So we saw in Mexico a radical change where the employees were a submissive person and the almighty general secretary of the union was almost like God. It changed the perspective, and now the masses had the power. And even they kicked out all unions and instituted new unions, the unions that they thought they were going to be the right choice. Unfortunately, time has shown them that it was not the right move. So right now, it's a new shift moving around. What is happening in Matamoros is lack of leadership on behalf of the company, because the company is not telling the employees anything. So what is going to happen? If you lay off an employee in Mexico, there are specific rules that you need to follow.
Okay.
Remember, the law in Mexico are pro-employee,
Okay.
and there's no employment at will. That concept is foreign to Mexico. If I hire you today, and in 1 hour I need to fire you, terminate you, I'm obligated to pay you at least 90 days.
Really?
Yes, because the law says every employee that gets terminated without proper cause, these are the consequences. It doesn't say if you have 1 hour, it doesn't say you 1 day, it doesn't say you have 3 years or 25 years. It says an employee. And if you're an employee of an hour and I decided to terminate you right there and there, then you are entitled to receive 90 days of salary. There's another concept that if you have seniority, let's say of 10 years, it's a 20-day per year work at your current salary. So people in Mexico, when they get terminated, some of them get a lot of money. Now, all proportions safeguarded, because at the end of the day, you earn dollars, they earn pesos.
Right.
But even with that in mind, some of them, they will get very well compensated.
Now, is that kind of like their retirement system, or is that that's just the labor law and,
That is a protection that any Mexican employee has under the law if you get terminated without a proper cause.
So that's a severance payment, pretty much.
It is a severance payment. In Mexico, we call it indemnización constitucional.
Indemnización constitucional.
Because it's in the Mexican Constitution, Article 123, it says if you terminate an employee, the employee gets paid A, B, C, D.
That's in the Constitution.
That's in the Constitution.
Wow, I did not know that.
Now, let me explain you why the employees in Mexico are king. And the reason I'm saying this is because the law that they have, Article 133 of the Mexican Constitution says more or less like this. This Constitution, the laws that comes out of this Constitution, and the international treaties negotiated by the President and approved by the Mexican Senate are the maximum law in Mexico. So the Mexican federal labor law is a regulatory law that is coming out of the Article 123 of the Constitution. So this is the highest law that you can find in Mexico. So this law is above tax law, foreign law, commerce law, and civil code. Everything, this law is the highest of the nation because it's coming directly from an article of the Constitution, which is 123.
Wow.
The only thing, as a matter of fact, if the company owes taxes, the first person that gets paid is the employee, and if there's anything left, then the government.
Interesting. Because I was going to ask about that, right? Obviously, there's a lot of employees in Matamoros that are saying, you know, this company laid me off and owes me this much. And now, they're either not paying it or not even matching what I'm supposed to get.
Correct.
So what recourse does the Mexican employee have, even though they have all this power, right? The Constitution says you are owed. But I mean, when it's in this type of case, right? Like, where do they fall in line?
Well, first of all, your union has to do homework.
Okay.
And the legwork as well. What is the homework? Well, first of all, you have a collective bargaining agreement that protects the employee. Well, the company is shut down. Okay. What the union can do is file a lawsuit, a labor complaint. By doing so, most likely the union, I don't represent unions, but most likely, if I'm thinking like a union, I will place an embargo on any asset that is owed by the company.
Okay.
Now, here's the trick. Most of the machinery and equipment that those companies have inside their plants do not belong to the Mexican entity.
Oh, gosh.
They're in consignment because the owner is the parent company, mama or papa, in the U.S. And at the end of the day, if the U.S. entity wants to fight that, they might be able to obtain some of the assets. But most likely, there's a concept in Mexico that says, because of you, papa or mama, are the direct beneficiary of the work that was performed by these employees, then those assets also are going to be used, even though they belong to you, not to my employer. You got the direct benefit of my working through the manufacturing of assets or parts. Then I can attach that. There's a principle of law in labor law in Mexico. So based on that principle of law, those assets can be attached by the Mexican authorities.
Interesting. And that's kind of what we're seeing, right? Because, you know, we see all of these workers, we hear that they were gathering for weeks. And I don't know if they're still out there, but, you know, they were literally setting up shop outside of these facilities where they worked at so that they could stop the company from coming in and removing those assets.
Correct.
And so that's why we're seeing, you know, this type of behavior, right?
Because that will be the only recourse that the employee may have through the union, may have to get paid. That will be the only one. Now, there's two types of employees in Mexico. Union employees and non-union employees.
Right.
The non-union employees are what we call confidential employees, because they have confidential information. They manage the company, they direct the company, they inspect the products, and have a commanding power over the union employees, which are usually a supervisory role or the actual manufacturer of the parts and pieces that they are manufacturing in Mexico. Okay. So that's the hierarchy.
Sure.
You have your managers, and then you have directors, managers, and supervisors. And then you have the rest of the manufacturing employees. And those usually are represented by unions. And in this particular case, the union that they have in Matamoros should be, I will assume that by now they have already filed some sort of recourse in order to prevent the company to prevent the company from taking in the assets that the employees may have in order to get paid. Now, the union employees and the non-union employees, how do they rank in the law?
Mm-hmm.
Because these guys were the managers and these guys are the manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have, in the eyes of the law, the same rights?
I'm not sure.
They do.
They do. Okay.
They do. However, in these particular cases,
Uh-huh.
you have more strength. The more the numbers,
Uh-huh.
more strength you will have. So guess who has more numbers?
Probably
the union.
the union.
Correct.
For sure here in our region, apparently.
Correct. So in this particular case, you will have 300, 400, 1,500 employees versus 200 or 500 in the best case scenario of employees non-union. All these union employees are represented by the union. All these individuals are represented by themselves because they do not have a common representative unless they get together and they
Do like a
consult with
class action or something. I don't know.
yeah,
if that's
sort
the
of like
right
that.
word.
Yes, if you want to put a U.S. name to that,
Yeah.
yes, you will
Or what
hire
would you call it in Mexico?
a collective lawsuit.
Okay.
Because they will come to me as an attorney. I don't represent employees,
Right.
but if they will come to me and say, "How many are you? Are you? Well, we're 10. Well, look for more. So let's have more numbers." And they go and come back. Well, I don't like Francisco. Maybe I like Ramon. Maybe I like Juan. So the confidential employees or non-union employees will have different attorneys. Then the problem is between the attorneys that they're going to start fighting because they know that the assets that are in there, they're not going to be enough to pay the employees
Everybody.
and the non-union, the union employees and the non-union employees. So who filed the lawsuit first?
That matters too.
That matters because the first one that needs to be resolved is the first one
To file.
that got filed.
Really?
Of course.
Okay.
We call it prelación en tiempo. First come, first serve. It's what it is. What if I file the lawsuit first
money.
and then you file the lawsuit like a week later, your lawsuit cannot be resolved before mine unless yours was very easy and there was not many evidence to resolve and your hearings got expedited. That will be the only way.
Okay.
But my lawsuit, and we're fighting for the same things. Mine got first, and it needs to be resolved first. So in my lawsuit, it says, yeah, out of those 5 machines that are there, I'm going to give it to you 2 of those. Well, I got now 2 machines, and you are 5, and I'm only 1. I have 2 for 1, and you have 5 employees for 3 machines. So just balance the numbers. They're not going to add up. So usually what happens, and I've seen that happen, what is happening right now is not new.
Okay.
I've seen this many, many times. And one of the things that they do, the non-union employees, they will seek the advice of the union leader and say, you know what, represent us as well. So they will use the attorney that the union hire to be represented as well.
Not under a union, flag.
Even though they're not
yeah.
a union member or the union represents them.
Yeah,
But
you're
for
already
it to
doing
be-
the work. Just go ahead and represent me.
Exactly. It represent me. Yes.
Okay. Now, where do they fall in line? Because obviously, the parent company still has people it owes money to, right? The case is going on in the U.S. In Mexico, sure, the employee might come first, but when it comes to this issue, right, we have that added issue where it's like in the U.S. and there's a bankruptcy filing there. Who comes first?
The bankruptcy will only be concerned in regards to the U.S. companies.
Okay.
That will not reach across the border. If they want to do something in Mexico, they have to do it through the Mexican courts.
But if it's their equipment, right? Let's say that.
They have to prove it to the Mexican authorities. You know how long that is going to take? Forever. And I've seen that happen. It took me 3 years to resolve the matter in Nuevo Laredo. Company went bankrupt. They couldn't pay. The union put an embargo on all the assets. The non-union employees they were added to the list of the union, like I was telling you. And it took us 3 years to resolve the matter. At the end of the day, we settled for X amount of money. I don't even remember how much. And the way it was going to be paid is the assets needed to be sold. And a company out of Guadalajara is a company that specializes on putting apart companies and selling parts.
Okay.
So this company came in, dismantled everything, sold everything to different companies. And with that money, he got his piece.
Sure.
And then the rest got distributed among the employees.
Huh. So this is, when it comes to this, these people in Matamoros and, that have lost their severance, that are not getting, that are now possibly in a legal fight. This is not something that's going to be worked out soon, is it?
Unfortunately not. This is going to take years.
Years.
Yes. If by some miracle economy goes back up and this company gets out of bankruptcy or gets an agreement with their debtors in the U.S., with their creditors in the U.S., and start sending money over here, well, the first thing that they need to do is pay severance to the employees that got laid off, and to the companies that are still working, maintain the same level of employees and all of that. Usually, when I get money as a parent company, I will send it to the company that are still working. They're still generating income. They're still generating assets.
Right.
Because they are the viable companies.
Right. They're the ones that are still operating, right?
And making money.
Revenue. Sure.
And this, unfortunately, and let me be very blunt and cold in this particular case, these individuals, they're not generating anything. It's a headache that needs to be resolved in one way or another, in 1 year, and on 2 and 3 and 4 years. But they're not generating any income for my interest. So I need to get paid, or I need to pay my creditors. The companies that are still viable, they need to start generating money so I can comply with everything that I agree in the U.S. But these ones, that's a different story. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. And not because it's not in the best interest of the companies in the U.S. to pay them. It's because at the end of the day, it's a business. So I have 10 pesos or $10. And out of those $10, where am I going to invest them? Where am I going to send the money? I'm going to send the money to pay a debt, or I'm going to send the money to a company that can make those 10, make them 20 or 30. Well, it's a business. If I pay the 10, I'm going to lose the 10, and that's it. If I invest the 10, I may be able to multiply those 10 and maybe, just maybe, pay them over here.
So there's nothing that would hold the company that, once it has its money, right, that would say, nope, you got to pay these people first before you invest money into this other.
Correct. Unless the U.S. judge says otherwise. But I doubt that. One thing. The other thing is, we're forgetting about all the vendors and suppliers and the landlord that are affected. Some of the landlords, they have loans with international banks that they need to pay. So they were counting on the rent payment so they can make means to pay their loan.
And that is what is happening in Matamoros. We did speak to the landlord of one of the companies that had to shut down. And, he pretty much said, I am having legal issues with them too. And I can't talk about it because, they're...
I don't have any legal issues with anybody, but I'm telling you, it's kind of like an overview of what I have seen and worked in other cases, not in this particular case.
Right.
I know nothing about these cases. And I do not represent any of these either employees or companies. But what I've been telling you so far is what I have experienced with other companies that I've represented in the past. And that's pretty much kind of like the roadmap that these companies in Matamoros are going to have to follow.
Right. And you mentioned that you've seen this before. It's nothing new, right? Companies go bankrupt. But when it comes to the scale, or at least the impact that we're seeing, is that different than what you've seen? I mean, can you kind of put it into perspective for us, right? Because, for somebody who's not in the maquiladora industry, you hear 5,000 people laid off. I mean, those are alarm bells going off in my head, right? But you have been around, this industry and this type of work a lot longer than I have, for sure. Put it into perspective for us.
30 years of doing this.
Yeah. I mean, you're an expert. I'm just trying to digest it here. So help us understand.
Well, one of the things that I've seen before that I'm seeing now, before social media was not a thing.
Uh-huh.
Before, you will read it in the newspaper, you will hear it on the radio, or you will watch it on the TV, in the news.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be kind of like, boop, boop,
Mm-hmm.
just
A blip.
a blip. Right now, with social media, everything gets blown out of proportion. Mm-hmm. So you may think that this is a big deal. Don't get me wrong, it is a big deal,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're in their shoes.
Right.
It is a big, big deal. We're talking about several families without income that are struggling big time. But let's not lose sight that social media has exponentially put it in everywhere. Back then, it was not like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask me if it's the same or it's bigger now than it was before, I will say it's the same way in regards to how things are or were, versus if you ask me with respect to social media in the way that the people, we're talking about it. Mm-hmm. Before, we would not
right. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Before, because it was not a thing. It was just on the newspaper, and mm-hmm. people were suffering, mm-hmm. and people had to look for other jobs. People had to abandon the city and go back to where they're coming from, or they have to look for another jobs in a different city. Well, same thing is happening right now. Mm-hmm. Again, social media has blown these things out of proportion. It has amplified it. And definitely, again, did you and I converse about this 20 years ago? No, we did not. Did I get an interview? Did I get did a presentation about this? Yeah, maybe one or two presentations, kind of like with economic development corporations, sure. Economic development boards.
Very niche.
Correct. But now, this is the third time that I get to speak about this. I get interview, all of this, because of the mediatic social media element that you have to, like you said, it got amplified. Mm-hmm. Is it good or bad? I think it's good. Why is it good? Because it's showing the face of a vulnerable people being affected mm-hmm. in a way that somehow, if the government, the companies, including the companies, the vendors, suppliers, and all of them, do not get together and look for a solution as a whole, I don't think it's going to work. Because if I'm only going to be taking care of my own business, if I'm only going to be looking for my own interest, well, you're going to be pulling this way and I'm going to be pulling that way. And we're not going to resolve that. So the way I think it should be, a meeting of the minds, see the roadmap. Again, I'm speaking, maybe they already did this. Mm-hmm. I do not know.
Right, yeah.
But the way I will do it, it's, okay, who do I owe? Well, I owe A, B, C, D. Okay, bring them in. What else? All the employees, bring them in. Where's the union? Bring them in. And first individually, mm-hmm. and then all collectively, okay, and look for a solution. I'm assuming the attorneys that these companies have, they already did that or looking to do that. I don't know where they are. But that will be one of the ways to start knowing exactly where you are.
Mm-hmm. In line.
In line.
Right. Because everybody seems to,
Landlord, vendors and suppliers, they know for a fact, based on Mexican law, that they're going to be the last ones. Mm-hmm. The first ones are going to be the union and non-union employees. And I will say in that order because most likely the union already filed something to detain the export of all the machinery and equipment that they're going to be using to get paid. Now, there are other possibilities that the companies that they were competing against this company, the parent company, they may start getting interested in, okay, so how many machines do you have?
You already have the building, you already have the machines.
How much is the debt? Well, let's say, I don't know, 20 million. Okay. I'll give 10, 12, 15, 18, 17, getting a number. And not only that, I will give you employees work.
Mm-hmm.
And I will give you employees, non-union, work. And why will I give them work? Because they already know. They already know the machines. They already know the product. They already know things that I
mean,
need.
that would be the best case scenario,
and
right?
I've seen it happen.
Okay.
And there's another possibility. The competitor of this company, I need the machinery and equipment. And I've told people, look, you're not going to get pick and choose which machinery and which equipment you're going to take out because the union is not going to let you. Mm-hmm. Because let's say you take 5 machines out of that and you pay 5 million. So how those 5 million pesos are going to be paid or distributed among all the employees? Mm-hmm. It's not going to, it's kind of like an aspirin to a cancer patient.
Right. A Band-Aid on a gunshot wound.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
you got to take it all, or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right now, I'm working on something that may end up helping some of the companies that may need or may need those machines and equipment.
Interesting.
Not here.
Okay.
Over there, somewhere else.
So perhaps a little hope.
There's hope, definitely. Mm-hmm. There's hope. That's what I'm telling you. There are other options, not just go to war. Mm-hmm. You have to go to war. At least show the guns.
Yeah.
In a good way. In a
metaphorically.
Metaphorically.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Waterloo War.
Yeah.
Back in the day. You know how the armies got in front of each other and the line up. Well, that's how you have to do it. Today you just push a button, something goes off.
Yeah.
I'm old school type war.
Yeah.
Civil War type.
Everybody like
correct.
Fill the
the musket and all that. Yes. So you have to show your cards and put a poker face sometimes. Mm-hmm. Say, well, I'm not interested. You have to be paying more when in reality 5 million is a lot of money. Let's take it.
Right.
Because talk to the employees. If I get in as a new company, I'm offering you work. Mm-hmm. And I'm recognizing maybe all seniority or some of the seniority. I don't know. Okay. Or maybe none of the seniority, but you will have work.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It depends on how you get to manage all those things. So
and now, think about the labor shortage. Not the labor shortage, but like the, you have all of these people without jobs. And then you have other maquiladoras, other plants that are closing for other reasons, right? So now you have a lot of people looking for job, and are there enough jobs out there to fill?
Not right now.
And so what is that going to do? And then something that we didn't talk about is the informality. We recently had a story in our journal about how a lot of businesses in Mexico, a lot of people are employed in informal jobs. And when you started talking about those protections, it kind of got my mind going. And I thought, are these protections also offered to the people that are working in informal jobs? Is that the big difference, right? When we talk about formal and informal in Mexico?
Picture this.
Uh-huh.
Big company, 99.99% of the time, all of them comply with the law. Mm-hmm. Medium to small companies, 85% of the time, they comply with the law. Mm-hmm. Small to micro companies, 10-15% of them comply with the law. Not that they are illegally working, is that I will say, the burden imposed by the Mexican government in regards to taxation, in regards to social benefits, in regards to housing department, which is in front of it, and all of that, it's a lot of cost that gets absorbed by the employer. So instead of me raising you before Social Security, I will pay you a little bit more, but you take care of your
Pero
own
sin beneficios.
without benefits.
Wow. And
That's
I think
informality.
half the labor force or something like that. Let me see. I can't remember that number, but I remember it was pretty high. They're working without
86% of Mexican employment is done through medium, small, and micro companies. 86%.
Wow. That's a huge percent.
I mean, you will think like, oh, the big companies have the big.
But it's kind of like that in the US too, right? The small
Correct.
businesses are the backbone of,
Correct.
of the economy. But
Well, but here's the statistics. In the United States, the medium to small companies, they last an average of 20 to 22 years. In Mexico, they last 6 years.
6. Wow.
So every 6 years, you're reinventing the wheel. Every 6 years, you're doing something new. Every 6 years, you get to invest in something new.
Wow. Well, lots of ins and outs,
Yes.
So I'm glad that there's experts that people can refer to, like your company and your firm, that, can help dispel some of these things. Because at the end of the day, right, foreign investment is not going away. If anything, are we seeing more of it now?
I will say yes, but we have to be careful on because people think, oh, we're still negotiating the USMCA. Let's take down a notch and think about this. The first time around, Mr. Trump said the NAFTA, it was the worst international treaty signed by the U.S. And he said that he was going to terminate it. And he did. But he created the USMCA. I will say 90% of the NAFTA is imprinted in the USMCA. Added a few chapters, environmental chapter and labor chapter that we didn't have under the NAFTA. It was side agreements, literally side agreements, labor and environment on the NAFTA. And the USMCA, they were included. And now, 6 years later, we are in the
Review.
The letter of the treaty says to review. We are in full-blown negotiations or renegotiations.
You think so? You think that?
I'm telling you, because there are things that both sides of the equation are asking for each other, from each other. And at the end of the day, some of them, either A or B, is going to have to cede on this. And I will give you this if you give me that. Well, it's not going to work that way. I'm going to give you this, and I'm not going to give you anything. I'm going to give you this, and I might give you this. I'm going to give you this, but I need this, this, and this. So it depends on what you're going to start negotiations.
Right.
And what are you negotiating, and what is it that you want to negotiate? That is the importance of how these negotiations are going. May, which is around the corner, where the companies are going to have to start thinking about the way the negotiations are going to turn in. May is the month where they need to say, okay, I want this and I want this.
Okay.
By June the 1st, it's just kind of like this, a little this, and a little this.
Okay.
The final comments has to be presented on June the 1st. So we're just around the corner that we will have. People said, oh, the USMCA is going away. We're not going to have it. I don't think that is going away. Like the NAFTA. The NAFTA went away, but USMCA took over.
Right.
I truly don't think that the USMCA is going to go away. We will see in USMCA 2.0. Yeah. Most definitely 2.0. Sure. But the USMCA will stay there.
Interesting.
We're too much intertwined that thing can go away.
Right.
Now, let's assume worst case scenario. The USMCA goes away. Well, it's not going to end like today. We didn't sign the treaty, so tomorrow everybody brings back their machinery, equipment, and all that. No, it has a 10-year grace period that things are going to start winding down, and then you have other rules, the rules outside the USMCA, which is the international commerce rules that will take place. So there are still other
mechanisms
in place to continue with foreign commerce in the United States, Mexico, and Canada.
So help us understand, June 1st, I guess right now everybody's kind of submitting their public comment or, okay.
Well, every country already submitted to their own governments what they think they need.
Okay. And then the government is the one that has to...
Governments are getting together, meetings of the mind. Last negotiation, the way it was done, the NAFTA was the three countries together. And then last negotiation, United States negotiated with Canada and then negotiated with Mexico. And then Mexico and Canada were talking behind the scene. And I know this for a fact because I have Ildefonso Guajardo, is a good friend of the Mexican Association for entrepreneurs. And he discussed that. He said, yeah. It was just Mexico and U.S., Canada and U.S., and then Canada and we were talking about on the back. He was the Secretary of Commerce, Economy back in the day when the USMCA was negotiated.
Straight from the horse's mouth, I guess.
Exactly. So it was a good way for the USMCA to come together and have this put into place. Now,
how's it going to work this time around?
There's new people negotiating this. Let me put it this way, the old school people that were there, that had all the experience, they're not there. Just a few ones. They're completely new. So the new ones, how experienced, how well-versed are they in negotiations? No idea.
We're going to find out.
Well, yes, we're going to find out, definitely. Mexico, and this is the example that I present to people. If Mexico defends itself the way it defended the first labor panel against the U.S., we're okay. Because we presented a defense, as the Mexican government presented a defense against the U.S. government, and the panel, the international panel, sided with Mexico based on the evidence that was presented by Mexico. And at that time, I mean, I saw the panel being in the hearing. Mexico presented a very good defense, a very, very good defense. I was like, wow.
And this was during the USMCA?
No, this is the USMCA. Remember, I told you that USMCA now has a labor chapter
component, right?
Chapter 23. Based on that, there are specific rules now that countries can, let me use this word, attack companies that are violating the human rights and labor rights of the Mexican employees because they're not letting them have unionized conversations or negotiations, what they call collective negotiations.
Sure.
And the unions are abusing the employees. So the U.S. government, they saw the evidence, they heard the evidence, and they presented a case against that company. The company is kind of like, I'm going to hire an attorney to defend me. No, it's the Mexican government defending the company against the U.S. government attacking the company.
Interesting. Okay. So if they follow that type of...
If they follow that type of precision...
Playbook, I guess.
Correct. The way they did it, I guess Mina San Martin, I think it was called, the case. In Mexico, well, the company won through the Mexican defense. If they do that the same way in the way they negotiate at that time, it presented, I think Mexico will be okay. If the experience is not there, and let me use this word, if they get bullied around and they somehow agree to it and bend their hands, I guess we will have a very different USMCA than when we have. But again, we will have it at USMCA.
Yeah, it's just
Terms and conditions are going to be different.
right, and all of those terms and conditions, right, are
Then
affecting.
they're going to give me a lot of things to review again.
Okay. All right, Francisco. Well, is there anything else that you want to add? I know we kind of covered the gamut here. We went all over, but there are so many angles, right?
Yeah, correct.
But any final thoughts?
Well, you know what? The one thing that is important we're talking always about big companies, but let's touch base on the little ones.
Okay.
Mexican entrepreneurs, U.S. entrepreneurs. Trump put a lot of emphasis. The medium-sized to small companies were able to export their products, and they were able to invest in Mexico. He fought for that. So it's a highway, a two-way highway.
Mm-hmm.
So through the Asociación de Empresarios Mexicanos, what we're trying to do here is to attract Mexican investors to come to the U.S. and invest. And U.S. investors that they want to invest in Mexico, we can help them there as well, because we have chapters in Mexico that can attend to them and their needs. And my law firm partners with the AEM. As a matter of fact, René Cacheaux, he was one of the fathers of the Asociación de Empresarios Mexicanos back in 1996. So I think that having that in mind, that it's not just the big companies, but also entrepreneurs that want to venture out from Mexico and come to the U.S., they can use the association, they can use my law firm to be present in the U.S., to do it the right way, and to seek advice, especially, like we say in Mexico, que no te piquen los ojos.
Sí.
So that way, they will not get stabbed in the back, or they get robbed in the act.
Right.
But
Sobre aviso no hay engaño.
that is correct. I'm already telling you, if you come well represented, you will be well defended. And that is very important, because at the end of the day, it's not what you know, but who you know. And knowing the right people will help you invest. We partnered with RGV and Eve Rich. We partnered with McAllen EDC, FAR EDC, Edinburgh EDC, Brownsville GVIC, FAR Mission EDC. We partnered with a lot of EDCs, and through those partnerships, we help them, those Mexican entrepreneurs that want to invest, buy land, or just come and set up a business. We help them to connect with the right people. And the way we do it, and Juan Bringas is a friend of mine. He's now the director of foreign investment in Monterrey. And I told him once, this is what I do. I connect the dots. He says, Francisco, I'm going to steal your phrase. I said, by all means, do. Connecting the dots from point A to point B, and to do it the right way. That's what I will tell people. Just because my compadre did it and he was okay, that doesn't mean that you're going to be okay.
Right.
But your compadre is not telling you that he spent 10 years and I don't know how many thousands of dollars to get to the point he is. Well, I'm trying to save you all that time and all that money to do it the right way.
And so if somebody wants to reach your firm, what's the best way to do that?
Through my contact information, 956-369-9271. That's my cell phone. You can reach me there, and then we can connect through the website, www.ccn-law.com.
All right. Well, Francisco, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And for those of you at home, keep reading, keep subscribing, and we'll see you next week.